Good morning. Welcome to worship with the Universalist Unitarian Church of Peoria. My name is Regina Stanley, and I have the pleasure of serving as the membership coordinator for this great congregation. This is a beloved community striving to live its mission of embracing freedom, loving wholeheartedly, growing in mind, body, and spirit, and adding to the healing of the world. We welcome people of all ethnicities and races, sexual orientation and gender identities, social and economic situations, abilities, and politics. We advocate for human rights, and we strive to be good stewards of the earth. I want to acknowledge that this is the land that we are on is the home of the Peoria people. We honor who they were and who they are today. Thank you for joining us in person and online. If you are new here, these are our summer services are a little more casual and they are lay-led. And we have a few more weeks of those. After service, please stay for coffee and conversation in Fellowship Hall or in the Zoom room after the service. Also, if you are new here and wondering what's going on, our rummage sale is being set up. So that is why you will find we are full right now. At this time, will you please be sure to turn your devices to worship mode, either silent or vibrate. You can see the graphic or ask someone next to you for help. I have a few notes for today. First, I'm going to invite Rev Jennifer up for one of them.
Well, these things seem to come around in cycles. We have a new phishing scam that went out by email, I think yesterday or so. And basically, they're getting better at sounding like me, but it's still not me. And asking for, hey, can you come and help me? And then asking for Target gift cards this time. First off, no, it wasn't me. And second, please don't do it. Because I so appreciate how generous and wanting to be helpful this congregation is. And that really should be our first impulse. And also the impulse should be, is this actually the minister? So if you received one of these, yes, we know about it. Hopefully you received the notes I sent out to the congregation about this and the other media to say that this wasn't in fact me. And please make sure if you haven't already, had a chat with your friends or so and say, hey, by the way, that email from the minister was fake. And I also appreciate people saying, hey, that we got this, so we have a sense of the range of how many people received this. And so that we have a sense of what list were these people working from to create this? Because it sounds like it might have been an older list because we had a similar scam a year ago. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, please see me or send a note to the church office. Thank you.
I also want to mention that today is Mahjong. That is the second and fourth. Is it today? Today is Mahjong, right? Yes. Anybody confirm that? Now I'm wondering if I looked at it wrong. Mahjong starts at 1 o'clock in Fellowship Hall. If you don't know how to play, they are happy to teach you. It's a good time. So check that out. Also a reminder about the rummage sale. We are still looking for volunteers to come help set stuff out, price things. And then the day of the sale is August 1st and 2nd, and we need people to add up things and work the cash register. And also, if anybody wants to bring in food during the week for the volunteers that are helping, that would be wonderful too. That's always appreciated. And then I just want to mention that next Sunday is T-shirt theology. So wear a T-shirt that has some sort of meaning to you, a value or a belief that's important to you. Just make sure that it doesn't have anything to do with any person. Okay, all right, great. And now let's please rise in body and spirit for our opening hymn, number 131, Love Will Guide Us. We are going to sing the first verse only.
A marriage is an unpredictable collaboration. From the genetic randomness of who your kids become to who wins the margarine butter debate, there are outcomes that could not have been foreseen. For us, one of these out collaborations has been treasure hunt birthday parties. The combination of my wife Jeanette's storytelling and improv acting abilities with my practical ability to make the crazy things she imagines has led us to making memorable treasure hunt birthday parties. These parties incorporated a surprising number of UU principles in them, from cooperation rather than competition to the democratic process for figuring out where to go next. We've learned that the children are always paying attention and learning from everything that you do.
For the chalice lighting and aspiration. Let us notice the ways we may invite fun, love, and kindness into the center of our gatherings with stories and activities that build mutual connection and allow us to go forward with worthy and kind companions. And we lift up during our gathering today that this might include creating your own story to travel together with in the treasure hunt way.
We invite our shared gifts of generosity to be pooled at this time, and half to be shared with the East Bluff Community Center Food Pantry. If you would like to know more about the pantry or our Share the Plate program, please feel free to talk to me after service or send me an email. Please use the envelopes provided in the pews to make your offering and indicate its use. See the QR code in the order of service to make an online donation. Once the plates have been passed, all are invited to come forward and light a candle for whatever is on your heart. If you are at home, feel free to light your own flame or simply let these candles be for you. Will the ushers please come forward? This is the time for sharing the joys and sorrows of the congregation. On July 30th, there will be a birthday party for Medicare at Representative LaHood's office in Peoria, the federal building. The party starts at 11 and there will be cake. Terrence Lindsay would appreciate some support. Today is his birthday, so we wish him a happy birthday. And it is difficult for him not having his son Owen here to help celebrate. So we send him love. We also offer condolences to the family and friends of Elizabeth Jelly, a dear friend of Nancy Venzen and a longtime friend of UUCP. Elizabeth passed away Friday, July 18th. Her celebration of life will be held on Sunday, August 3rd from 2 to 4 at Lutheran Hillside Village in the community room. Let us keep all the names, milestones, joys, and sorrows in our ever-expanding circle of care. Let us share one more moment of quiet together. Please breathe with me. Namaste, amen, and blessed be. And now the children are invited to stay for this family-friendly service. However, if you choose, those who prefer, you are now welcome. I invite the children and their adult volunteers back to religious education for a nature scavenger hunt. And we will sing you out now.
Good morning. I'm Edward Flint, and this is my wife, Jeanette Gruber. Now, many of you who've joined the church since the pandemic probably think of us as some of the older folks who work on committees and do the allegedly boring stuff with, say, the board. But we think of ourselves as being parents, first and foremost. And so our children grew up in this church. So you show the slide of our children. There we go. And so here are Bear and Anne, and they're on the playground in the back of the church that we helped construct. And so that is something we think of ourselves in this way. What we offer today is a fun part of the parenting puzzle that we believe turned out pretty well. And we hope to explain how it is for you to do your own birthday parties using the treasure hunt way. Our story begins with Bear's 4th birthday party back in our little house in West Peoria, where we had a couple of other 3- and 4-year-olds over, and we didn't really plan much to do. And so I decided that we should do the classic things like have the egg and spoon race and a relay race with throwing a tennis ball around. And one of the complicating factors was that one of the kids had an older brother who was 6. And of course, in any relay team with a 6-year-old competing with other relay teams with only 3- and 4-year-olds, the 6-year-old is going to win. And so his team won all the races. And it wasn't too great that half the kids lost, every single time. And that we didn't feel too good about that, but that was what we did. And then we made the blunder of playing musical chairs. And the problem with musical chairs with a bunch of 3 and 4-year-olds and a 6-year-old is that the 6-year-old is going to win. And at the end, all the 3 and 4-year-olds lose. And furthermore, the 6-year-old isn't that thrilled about winning. And so basically everybody lost. And that didn't make us feel too good about our birthday party, but we still had cake and ice cream and it was okay. But we took this as a lesson to improve what we did with birthday parties. And so over the years, we developed a concept of the treasure hunt birthday party. And we're going to skip ahead to a birthday party about 7 years later, maybe 8, when Anne was 4 or 5. And so what we had been reading with Anne was the Curious George books. And so we had a birthday party about Curious George Anne and the banana tree. And so the kids were sitting around with Jeanette. Jeanette was explaining the banana tree and making paper boats with all the kids, and they decorate the boats. And so then we all went off into the garage to use a kiddie pool to float their boats, of course. You have to float the boats if you make boats. And this strange person shows up, dressed all in yellow, a big yellow rain slicker and a yellow hat and a big bushy mustache. It was a bright sunny day, so the rain slicker was a little bit weird. And this person hangs around for a little bit and then goes into the living room and comes out cackling, "Ha ha, I got the bananas," and runs off, dropping a note in the way. Now, we had to stop the kids running after the banana thief, but once we corralled them and older sibling Bear comes back, wondering what all the hullabaloo's about, we start the treasure hunt. And the treasure hunt was a hunt for the banana thief. And the banana thief would give clues to how to track them down. And each clue was then read by all the kids, and we went around the house and the yard doing the treasure hunt based on this. So this was the banana thief birthday party that we had. This party was much more fun than the one we had back for Bear in West Peoria. The kids worked together to solve the puzzle. They all contributed. They all won, since, of course, we had ice cream and cake and bananas at the end. So, one thing that you want to do is, the first thing you want to do is figure out where you want to do your treasure hunt. We did most of our treasure hunts at our house, but we branched out. This one shown here is at a little pond up in Washington called Bowen Lake. And most of our pictures are from Bowen Lake, this Bowen Lake treasure hunt. My in-laws took pictures, and so we have those pictures. We were too busy doing the treasure hunts to take pictures most of the other time, but the concepts are always there. Other locations we used included, we went down to Cooper Park and Spindler Marina and rode bikes along the path and canoed back. We went to a friend's house who had horses, and we had a trip there to ride on horses and ride in her carriage. We had a lot of different treasure hunt venues, but you can start small and do it in your own house. You get to choose an interesting location. The next thing you need is what we call the frame story. And the frame story is what you build up for the kids for this. So the banana thief was the frame story for this. And what we were doing with the kids was essentially a little improv acting thing where they didn't know they were the actors. And so we made up a play on the fly and led them through the various parts of this by using the various clues that we have. So the frame stories have included the birthday burglar who stole the birthday cake, and Angelina Ballerina Rose Fairy Princess who had to rescue her birthday presents from the evil alligator who stole them across the bedspread river that was in the backyard. And we had a lot of different frame stories that made this work. And the frame stories are a little bit dicey sometimes because you're not always certain the kids are going to buy in. But we were fortunate that the kids always bought in, and we were very pleased with that. And so that's what we had. So the early ones, with the birthday burglar and the banana thief, the children saw the villain. Later ones, like the alligator with Angelina Ballerina Rose Fairy Princess, things happened that were attributed to the villain, but they didn't ever see the villain that was there. To tell you more about this aspect of things, we've asked our daughter Anne to present to you her recollections of the development of the frame story.
Hi everyone, I'm Anne. When I was growing up, the first step to having a birthday party was when Mom and Dad would ask, hey, what do you want the theme to be? So it was always something that I was interested in at the time. When I was young, it was Curious George or Angelina Ballerina Rose Fairy Princess, popular bedtime stories. Later, for example, in 6th grade, we were doing the Pioneer unit in school, and I really enjoyed that. So I had a Pioneer-themed birthday party. And when I was 13, my 13th birthday party was themed around dragons. And that story would then go into creating the frame story and all of the clues. And those clues, as I remember, as I grew up, those clues getting, well, the puzzles got more complex, sure. But also the rationale for the clues existing did too. You know, when I was about 3, I didn't really need to know why the banana thief was leaving us papers with puzzles that would lead us directly to thwarting him. I just remember the banana thief and finding the bananas and the bag of candy in the basement. But as I grew older, I started to appreciate that, in this time, the villain is gloating and simply letting slip the things that we need to thwart them. And the culmination of that, I distinctly remember finding a letter from Minnie the Minion underneath the sailboat in the backyard and realizing that in the story, we weren't actually meant to find that. It was so immersive and I got so excited, and it was just really fun to watch and know the progression of that throughout the years. I always had fun, and I was always fully bought in. It was a really great time.
Once you have a venue and a frame story, the next part is to make up clues around the frame story. Clues should be, of course, age appropriate and can take many different forms. I tend to lead towards things like maps and math puzzles and substitution ciphers. Teaching the children how to orient a map and decipher the scale surely holds their attention when it leads to the pirate's treasure. Our Egyptian party had a hieroglyphics to English cipher that the children had to solve. And of course, this is not historically accurate. I understand that. But this is a published thing that you have. And so the children had to figure out the correspondence between the symbols and the letters. And so we can see that the square here, we look at the list and we see that it's a P. And the second one is a bit confusing because it either be an E or an I. This substitution cipher has ambiguity in it. And then we see that this next one here is an O. And so you can figure out that the substitution cipher is telling us the name of where we are right now by this hieroglyphic method. And so teaching children how to solve a cipher is one of the fun things that I really enjoyed doing. So the clues are puzzles, and they typically lead to either the next clue or the treasure. And So one thing you have to do is corral the treasure hunters. And to do this, we have organized some rules about how to do the treasure hunt. So in the next slide, you'll see one of the people at the birthday party reading the clue. And you have to read the clue aloud is one of the rules. And the other rule is you need to read it to everyone at the same time. You can't just read the clue yourself and then run off and solve it. You have to be collaborative. And some of the other rules rather, is you can't race off until the clue is finished. You need to tell everybody what you think the answer is and where you're going and why, okay? So there were some kids at the 5 and 6-year-old level where they'd get an idea and they'd race off, typically in the wrong direction, but that wasn't always the case. So we tried to make it so that they talked about the clue and they talked about where it meant to go, and all went together to search for the next clue. And that tended to work better. We wanted to discuss the puzzle of the clue. That usually slowed people down. And what we found was that different people had different talents and they were able to solve different clues. So almost everybody got to be involved in the puzzle solving process for this. Okay, so this is the structure. Jeanette is dying to tell you the story of one of our birthday parties.
Hello, everyone. You can imagine with a family like this, we had a lot of interest in Egyptian pyramids. And I'm afraid it might have been my idea that for your birthday, there ought to be a pyramid. So I said to Edward, we need a pyramid, an Egyptian pyramid. And he said, really? And he came up with, of course, he had conduit in the garage. If you put 4 pieces to each corner, you come up with a 10 by 10 square base, and I got to fill it up with artifacts. Over here, I had a mummy. We had a life-size doll of one of my kids, and so we laid her in a coffin and wrapped her up in toilet paper, of course. Not that different from some people who pretended to be in a coffin in the haunted the haunted forest we have in the fall. So we had a sarcophagus, and all the kids knew that word by the time they left, right? And then over here, I had my favorite thing. There's a dog-based god. I'm going to call it the jackal. And I really wanted one of these, but we only had a cat. So the piano bench stood in for the dog. 4 legs, a little flat on top. But if you get a study lamp with a bendy neck, right, and you attach it to the piano bench, and then you find a fox mask, a Halloween mask, and tape it on there and cover the whole top and the 2 front legs with tin foil, I think you've got an Egyptian god that looks like a dog, don't you? So the piano bench was gone for the week. Next, these were 4th graders by now. And so, you can kind of do the little pottery dishes that have the organs in it. Now, they are pretend organs, but at the same time, we had some of those as well. If you can imagine, we set it all up. We took the conduit outside and put the pyramid together. And one of our big deals was, what on earth are you going to use for the surfacing? Stone, like the real ones, was out from the get-go, wasn't it? But we came up with a very big sheet of black plastic that we put on the outside. So that was our plan. Some afternoon, the kids were gone. We put it all up right next to the driveway where it belonged. We were all set. We wrote a story. We were good. Well, come the day of the party, shortly before the guests get here, Edward is out in the garage next to the driveway trying to set up the pyramid. The conduit was fine, but he came in to tell me it is totally too windy. I'm like, what? I can't have my pyramid? He said, I don't know. And I thought rather wildly because it wasn't too long till those fourth graders were showing up. We had a 10-foot Christmas tree one year, not as big as the church Christmas tree, but it was pretty big. We had a cathedral ceiling in the great room, and I'm like, wait a minute, just bring it on in. And so I already had these special items set up, so he brought in the pyramid. So it filled the living room. It was very large inside the house, not that big outside. There was only a 2-foot path against the wall where you would come in from the front door and then you would go down to the basement. But I'll tell you what, we had our pyramid, didn't we? The kids came in and we said, there's no room to work in the great room. Go see what's going on in the basement. And so we had a 5-clue hunt, and they used little pieces of papyrus. Okay, it might have been cardboard. And they had that hieroglyphic cipher. I still call them hieroglyphics, but whatever. And the kids had to follow the clues, which they did a pretty good job of. And they were like, well, okay. The second to last clue talked about going inside the pyramid. And the kids were like, well, how do we get in? I don't know, right? Why don't you go look at those clues again? Just see if there isn't anything else that you can find. Well, what happened was somebody finally turned over one of the clues and said, hey, wait a minute. There's letters back here. And so they put them all together and they fit in a 5-puzzle line in the order in which they had found them. And so on the back, it read C-U-T. And you guys are out there, so I'm going to go from this side. C-U-T-T-H-E-D-O-O-R. Cut the door. And Bear's like, Dad, you got a utility knife? I know you do. And so Edward was dispatched to the basement to get the utility knife. And the kids and I were upstairs. And I'm like, you might need some tools. There's a box over here that's looking a little suspicious. So they opened the box and it had a working flashlight for each person, each explorer, and a bottle of water. Don't you think we feel like we're in Egypt sometimes this last week? Yeah, maybe, except for the moisture, I suppose. So Edward came back up with the utility knife, and there was a hush. Edward used the utility knife and cut a slit all the way from as high as he was down to the floor. The little flaps wiggled just a touch. And one at a time, the kids started to go in. We stayed outside in the 2-foot space, didn't we? But we could hear what was going on. And somebody said, oh my gosh, there's a dead person in here. Okay. They had found the mummy in the sarcophagus, hadn't they? And then the birthday person said, so that's where the piano bench went. And then we heard, oh, wait a minute, it opens, because the piano bench could still open. And in there were the treats, were the treasure, right? And so a few people said, ew, on the little organs. And the kids went all through there. And one of the things we had done, because we enjoyed sparkle, and Shirley wasn't that part of a tomb, we had some mirrors in there. So a couple times they had to see themselves sneaking around with their flashlights, and it was great fun. Finally, we heard the one sentence that we still remember. One of the kids said, "Yuck, I hate Snickers." So they made the final line, didn't they?
But
And so I would share with you, I get to share what the guidelines are for treasure hunt makers. There's a few tricks in there, right, that we tried to do. My favorite rule is make it exciting. Pick the level of difficulty to be right at the edge of where your kid is at that time. Anne talked about getting to pick the themes, but we always made sure that what they were learning in school or what they had done, or if they went on a field trip or something, that might be in there too. We had a Captain Snaggletooth birthday party. Now, what age would a child have a snaggletooth hanging on the edge, right? Those were 7-year-olds and 6-year-olds. We had a John boat in the backyard, and it had to have a sail. But I wanted it to go up and down. And of course, Edward came up with a way for a broomstick with a sheet sail, a boom, and some kind of lever, or not lever, what is it, pulley, some kind of pulley operation so the kids could make the sail go up and down. And of course, a Jolly Roger blowing in the breeze, right? Well, the favors for that party were bandanas and eye patches. But for the eye patches, I just want you to know, we decided that, oh, it's okay if you put your eye patch on your forehead. And the kids wore them that way because it was just a little too hard to see with an eye patch actually over your eye. And finally, they had a mini compass to follow their way as they looked for the treasure hunt, or excuse me, the pirate treasure. One of the things we worked with was pre-readers, right? You got that important birthday where your kids have just met the other kindergartners and you have a group come over. Well, we had a mix of pre-readers and readers. So at the superheroes party with the birthday burglar who stole the cake, we had the kids be busy in the beginning by creating their own superhero cape with a towel. And we were safety pinning symbols of power to the back of their capes. We had planets that glowed in the dark, and stars and sequins and big streamers of yarn, all those kinds of things to make their capes. And suddenly, someone came in saying he was running off with the cape. There was another piece in that party that was a new innovation, and I can't tell you how much fun we had with it over the years. You see the notebook. In that party where we were making the capes, we gave each child one of those little bitty spiral bound books. And you'll notice that there's a pencil at the end of the string. Edward drilled a hole in each of those golf pencils and tied it on. So nobody lost their pencil, right? And we encouraged, as the clues unfolded, right? We encouraged the kids to write either the first letter of the clue. That was our ask, because all the kids knew their alphabet or were working on it. So they each were encouraged to turn a page and put a B for bike, for example. Therefore, the difficulty of the clue was not too high. And if a kid knew the whole word, they could write it in there. But the main thing is we had one page per clue on those little markers. I want you to know that we first knew we were onto a good thing when I got a call the next week from one of the moms who had dropped her son off and then gone and come back to pick him up. She's like, I heard every detail of that party. My son showed me the book and told me the letters, and he told me all about it. And I can't tell you how joyous that has been to give the kids a chance to document the evidence, right? How else do we learn? You can restrict the clues based on the age. And this is something we could have done with the 6-year-old, with the 4-year-old, have a different sort of thing for the 6-year-old to do. The difficulty can be adjusted on the fly. Sometimes they go too slow. So after about 3 minutes at least, then you can give a hint. Now it needs to be vague, right? Not too much. For example, you can say, all right, I guess it looks like Anna has the right track there, maybe. The wind is telling me Anna has the right track, or something like that. It's a way to help the kids. The main temptation for parents, though, including us, was to give them too much help in the beginning. So you got to let them struggle a little bit, because this is where the learning goes, or comes, I should say. I will say, too, that that struggle moment leads to another kid quote that we still remember. It was the party with the superheroes and the birthday burglar who came in and stole the cake, cackled to the kids, and ran off, right? And the kids, when they were looking for some of the clues, they couldn't figure it out. And so one of them said, oh, this is so hard. And eventually, I think one of the parents said, well, you could give up. And one of the very well-behaved children at the party said, well, I guess we don't need birthday cake. And the other kids were like, what? No, we're going to find him. We can do it. We can do it. And so they rallied around and they were reading a clue that was about the birthday burglar said, I'm going to jump on my 10-speed bike and be out of here. And so 5- and 6-year-olds, of course, they were frustrated because, most of them are not yet proficient at 10-speed bikes, right? And so after they rallied, they went hunting for where a 10-speed bike actually might be. And lo and behold, out in the driveway, there was a fallen over 10-speed with a clue underneath. They made it and they found it and they got that birthday cake. But I would offer it took that moment, and we still remember about the possibility of giving up, right? Collaborative and team struggle is part of this mechanism. One of the things that matters is you have a group where you help them with the language. You want to make sure that you distract or encourage or do your best to close down criticism of each other during the hunt. It's a collaborative operation and nobody's going to lose. It's not about competition. Once in a while, we needed like a gap of time, right? So we had a party where the grandmother was showing the kids the jewelry, which later disappeared, right? Okay, it was Mardi Gras jewelry, but she told a tale, she spun one about who gave it to her and who she gave it to after that, and why the rings were in there. And it gave enough time to use the dungeon in the lower level of the playground to hide the treasure, right? And there was a secret sign so Grammy knew when to close up. You can do that. There are other kinds of, I think they call it in RPG these days. Don't they call it an NPC, a non-playing character? That's what the Grammy could do. So you don't have to go back and have your kids again. You can just do this for other children. Finally, we had the privilege this year of going to a special wedding, and our kids did a treasure hunt. And I might add, we have some of the clues here. And this is the silken notebook where they had the clues and you could create the evidence of your work. Bear offered to do some closing thoughts for us about the effect of this adventure-based work on our children.
Hello! While I still have a crystal clear memory of the birthday burglar galumphing down the stairs laughing maniacally, a lot of my memories are from being a treasure hunt maker as well as a treasure seeker and the transition between the two. There are three main threads that I want to talk about. First, the frame story is always a practice of augmented reality. It is true because we believe it, and the world is a more fun, more exciting, and just better place because of it. This applies to alligators in Illinois who steal birthday presents, and also to justice, equity, and compassion, or the inherent worth and dignity of all people. These things are true because we believe them, and the world is a fundamentally better place because of that practical belief. Second, with belief like this, doubt is okay. Even when I was turning 6, I was highly skeptical of giving cake to someone who looked as similar to the birthday burglar as my dad did. However, learning to give cake to my dad after foiling the birthday burglar, followed by making my own treasure hunts, followed by making treasure hunts for my sister. Of course, I was as tall as the banana thief, but did I have a big black bushy mustache? Of course not. All of this made seeing behind the curtain an invitation to join the fun rather than a traumatic betrayal. Of course my parents made this world for me. They love me. I'll return that by buying into it, by helping make this world for them, and my friends, and my sister. And third, making treasure hunts gave me the rock-solid confidence that when I have power, I can make the world a better place. I started with very simple treasure hunts for the other kids at the babysitters, and grew to make treasure hunts for my college friends, my now spouse, and all the people who came to our wedding. Setting the frame story for the wedding did alleviate the small talk burden for the introverts, but also it helps set the intention for what we want our life as a married couple and community to be. An endeavor of collaboration, shared struggle, joy, and always, always sharing where you are going before tearing off because you know where to go next.
So the thing Bear touched on there was that there actually are UU principles that we can apply to the treasure hunts. And a few of them are things like the worth and dignity of all people. So all the kids at the treasure hunt are useful in solving some of the clues. We try to do it by the democratic process. So there's no leader who's dictating how things should go. It's all the kids working together to do this. And there's the idea of the larger frame story, which is the story that we tell ourselves to make it all real. And for me, an important part of that frame story is it needs to be consistent and kind. And all those things are things that our UU faith give us that maybe some other faiths don't always have as part of them. So the key thing is that we have control over the stories that we tell our kids during our birthday parties. We also have control over the stories we tell ourselves about the working of the world. Okay, so that was that, and that is that. Okay. And okay, now we will close with our final hymn, This Little Light of Mine, and that will be the end.
We now extinguish this chalice flame. And as we each turn to the outer world again, bringing with us our own flames, refreshed and tucked safely away in our own hearts, may we find clues about how to shed our light into this often troubled world, and partly because we had this time together, learning about what a treasure hunt way has to offer each of us. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Gary, and everyone. Happy birthday to you.
Our closing words are from Peoria native Ingersoll, Robert G. Ingersoll. Happiness is the only good. The time to be happy is now. The place to be happy is here. The way to be happy is to make others so.